How's it going, everybody? It's a Thursday. This is the fourth straight day of Poor Sports podcast streams. I want your feedback. Do you want this 4 days a week? In a dream world, if people wanted to listen, I would do it 4 days a week. I really think this type of medium is going to be the future of. I think sports radio is going to die. Not that I want that, by the way. There's plenty of sports radio folks that I think are very talented. I don't want to hurt their feelings, but I think sports radio is on its way out. In fact, since we started doing this podcast, I've been keeping an eye on what's been going on with Seattle sports media on YouTube, and all the radio stations, or at least I think Seattle Sports is live streaming. We have multiple offshoots of the. I'm not saying we've inspired anyone, by the way. That's not what I'm suggesting. What I'm suggesting is I started paying attention to it, and those folks are moving to YouTube too. I think the days of over-the-air radio are ending. In fact, if there was a good streaming audio app, which tell me if there is, but I think that's where we'd be. So do you want this 4 days a week? You want it 2 days a week? You want it 0 days a week? As you can see, no Alex again. We were going to podcast today, and he has these children, they fuck you as a someone who's trying to do a creative thing for no money. They really fuck you, these kids. Hold on, I'm going to change one thing on this. So yeah, I mean, I've been lucky. My I detailed it, I think, earlier in the week. I was super sick over the weekend, and then my wife got sick. My youngest daughter was sick before that. The oldest daughter has remained reasonably healthy. No vomit. If she pukes this weekend, it's a clean sweep. And what Alex thought he had last week that made him cancel ended up being kind of a similar deal. And now we're just, the kids are on the IR, IL. We have to do a politically correct, DL. That's what changed. It was DL. Now the only DL we know about is P. Diddy, it turns out. He was the only person on the DL in recent years. Oh, man. That's a sports and culture joke right there. Okay, so by the way, come see me this weekend. I'll be with Giannis Pappas at Tacoma Comedy Club all weekend. And then next weekend, tell your friends that live in Wisconsin. Tell your friends that got angry about the Fail Mary that I'm coming close to Green Bay. I'm going to see if I can visit Lambeau, in fact. If anyone has any ins on that shit, I actually probably need to look at that soon. Because I bet you have to plan that shit in advance. Anyways, headlining next Thursday and opening for Chris Franjola the rest of the weekend. So give me some feedback on what you like. If you want more of this podcast, less of this. I don't know if I'm going to do that. I mean, I don't know if I'll do 4 days a week if nobody's listening. I will say, I've tried to do a semi-daily podcast or multiple times a week podcast before, and you start to kind of dilute because people don't always want to listen to the same asshole 4 days a week, which I get. So let me know. Packed day, though. Even though Alex isn't here, it would have been a good day for Alex to be here because we have a lot to talk about. First off, Adam Jude in the Seattle Times broke the news that I don't think it's really news. Dave Sims is a candidate for the New York Yankees radio job. And I'm curious. If Dave Sims does accept the Yankees job, I have a pretty good podcast lined up to talk about it because I'm a huge Dave Sims fan. I was very sad when Dave Niehaus left. I think Dave Sims has done an admirable job taking his place. And I think he's also, that's not only do I think he's a very good broadcaster, and I do believe that. I think he's a very good broadcaster. I also think he's been handed an impossible set of shoes to fill, and I think he's done a really good job. And a lot of people disagree. People hate Dave Sims, and there's a couple times, obviously Dave Sims has had a couple times in his career where he's had calls where he stumbles over it or whatever. To me, that does not define a baseball announcer, maybe more than any announcer, because there's just so much season. There's just so much time where you got to be entertaining, and I think he does a pretty good job. I think he's a great broadcaster. That's my honest opinion. I couldn't have picked a different dude, a better dude, to take over for Dave Niehaus. And I wasn't like a huge Dave Sims fan because he broadcasts all over, by the way. He's like truly like just a quintessential professional broadcaster, all sports. And I've been impressed how he's integrated himself into the Seattle sports landscape because he's not a guy that's from here. You know, Mike Blowers grew up here. He played pro ball here. Of course, he can talk about the Mariners. He grew up probably rooting for the Mariners. And then he played for the Mariners. I don't think we talked about it on the podcast. Angie Mentink was on a couple broadcasts last week, I think. I thought she was great too, by the way. I might be zeroing in on the people that I don't think are, that I don't like as much, but I love Dave Sims. I thought Angie was great. So yeah, that's the news that came out from, and this has kind of been rumored for a little while, is the news came out that Dave Sims is a finalist for that job. I've heard a lot of cynical people talk about this. While I love Dave Sims, you can't be anything but happy for a guy. He lives the off season in New York. He has a place in Manhattan. He has a really cool podcast, by the way, called Hey Now, that he does with his sons. He's a Philly guy, but this would be going back home for him. I think, to be able to retire in New York, to be able to, especially a guy that obviously like respects broadcasting and respects the history of baseball, to go be a Yankees announcer, I think would be pretty damn cool, and I wouldn't blame him for it. Also, I did not realize Dave Sims was 71 years old. Oh shit, I think my camera's gonna die. This has happened before. We're gonna have to go on pause if this happens. That stinks. We'll see how long it lasts. It's been a long time. I charged it up a little bit before the podcast, but we'll see. If we have to do that, we'll pause it quickly and come back. Please don't leave us. Fuck, that's annoying. That annoys me very much. I tried to plan around this, folks. I really tried to plan around not having to fight this issue, and now, the camera looks like it might die. And it's going to happen. See, this is the thing. I'm going to be obsessed with it until it actually happens. So what I'm going to do is try to deal with it right now. We're going to go on break for just a moment. I'm going to try to deal with it, and then we will come right back. We'll go. Hold on. Don't leave. Please don't leave. All right, we made it back. Holy shit. We'll turn the music off. I got to figure out how to fix that in post. Oh my God. Okay. I'm sorry. Dave Sims would never do that is the point. Yeah, anyways, we'll move on from the Dave Sims thing. I think we're safe. Has 4 days a week. Is that too much? Did we just learn why it might be too much? Because I suck at everything. Is that might be enough. Hold on. I gotta get more in frame. There we go. All right. What a just disastrous beginning to the podcast. Yeah, tell me what you think. Comment what you think about 4 days a week. I definitely will not do 5 days a week. I'm hoping to start golfing again at some point. I haven't golfed since June. All right, I'm going to move on to a little more Seattle news. Jesus, just what an embarrassing beginning. Truly an embarrassing beginning to the podcast. All right, I would like to share this story that's kind of making the rounds. I think I saw it on, maybe Reddit or something like that, which is embarrassing, but I do occasionally see something on Reddit. Seattle, Washington was named by some random study the top pizza city in America. And now, as you can see, as we're looking at this article, if you're watching, the criteria might not be the exact criteria that you would use to determine what the best. It's like there's an average of there's 755,000 police pizza establishments for 755,000 people in Seattle proper. Yeah, I mean this is not criteria but I just want to say this about these kinds of things. This is so obvious clickbait that if you don't have a style of pizza named after your city, I don't know if you can be considered to have the best pizza in the country. New Haven pizza, New York style pizza, Detroit style pizza. I even think there's like kind of a Boston or a Philadelphia style pizza. Seattle has nothing. I think we have a couple good pizza places in the Seattle area. And I also want to point out, I do not live in Seattle. I'm going to tell you my favorites. I want to know your favorites also. But Seattle is not. As much as I would like to be the guy that's blindly proud of Seattle, where Seattle excels is not having the greatest pizza restaurants in the world. Because top pizza places in Seattle, there's a chain called Pagliacci that's we have kind of I guess we have all tiers of pizza. That's what I would say. We have Pagliacci is like a local chain that's good. By the way, all pizza's good. Frozen pizza. I've said this for years. Frozen pizza, the worst frozen pizza is better than the best broccoli dish I've ever had in my life. So pizza is good. That's a stance I'm willing to take. I'll take this stance publicly on this podcast. Pagliacci is fine. It's a chain. It's very good. I think it's very good. I'd say it's very good. I wouldn't say it's great. I wouldn't say it's perfect. But for what it is, a chain pizza that's available all over the Seattle area, I think it's pretty good. I think the next tier up, I would say, is Tallarico's. West Seattle, enormous slices, decent beer selection, get obliterated drunk on California Avenue. And then for me, I'm going to tell you the best pizza, my favorite pizza in Seattle. And shout out to him, sponsor the podcast sometime. I think every time I go in, the guy has a Sonics hat on too. It's right next to Holy Mountain Brewing on Elliott Avenue. It's called Dantini. It's in the same building as it used to be Batch 206 Distilling, which I think had a name before that too, by the way. That thing's changed hands a couple times. But Dantini pizza, get the garlic pepperoni. Oh, it's so good. It makes me want it. I will say they put in the pepperoni cups, there's little bits of mince. I don't even know if it's minced. It's garlic paste almost. They've minced it to the point that it's a paste, and I will just be shitting garlic for a year after I eat too much of that pizza, by the way. I eat an embarrassing amount of that pizza in one sitting. And you can bring it into Holy Mountain if you go out there. I don't know how well it travels, but I don't think most pizza travels very well, to be honest with you. That's my one pizza hot take. My one pizza unpopular opinion is delivery pizza is one of the worst delivery foods around. I also like Rocco's, which I think is on it's in Belltown. That's pretty good. And then is there any other pizza place that I had there's I don't know if this place is good per se, but it's in that like I think second tier, like right above Tallarico's or maybe in the same tier as Tallarico's. There's a place in Capitol Hill called Ian's Pizza that I would not say is incredible, but it has a bunch of, but again, these are like, first off, Ian's is a national chain. It is not a local chain. There's not a lot of them, but I know I've looked it up before. And they have like the goofy slices, like macaroni and cheese slice and shit like that. And then Pagliacci is just Seattle. I think Rocco's is just Seattle. Tallarico's is just Seattle. I think that Rocco's and Tallarico's are one location places. I'd put those actually a tier above Ian's, and I'd put Pagliacci at the bottom of this hierarchy that we're talking about, and the next at the very top, and there's a lot of space in between, which makes me believe there's probably a shitload of pizza that's in that category. But Dantini's in the Inner Bay area. Oh my God. And this is, by the way, from a guy that does not live in Seattle. I live in Tacoma, and I will tell you, easily the best pizza in Tacoma is at Camp Colvos Brewing. Their Tacoma location has but it's easy. We have I would argue, one very good pizza place, and that's it. We have another place called Salamoni's that's good, but not as good as Camp Colvos. Okay. I guess we'll move on to sports. I wanted to talk to Alex about this pizza because I know he eats pizza. I don't think he's a big foodie, which means that he's probably eating pizza a lot more actually than the average person. But here we are. Solo podcast. Yet another one. We'll do a quick preview of the Seahawks versus the Dolphins because we talked about Tua earlier in the week, right? I think Tua is I think it's very obvious that Tua's career is in peril. Tua Tagovailoa, his career is in peril, and that's not up for debate. I don't think that the league should step in and force Tua to retire. Any more than I know that they have an opportunity or an option to do it with oh man, this camera's bugging me. They have the ability to do it with like a failed physical. I think he can be like what do they call that? It's like but that's like, we don't really see that with guys that have $90 million guaranteed. And it puts, just the Dolphins and him are in such a tough spot because it's generational money that he'd be turning down. Is anyone, I guess I'm becoming a boomer because I remember when Steve Young retired because of concussions and we were like, oh, what a pussy, Steve Young. You should have kept playing. And now it's like, oh, Steve Young made the right choice and his brain is still intact. And for the guy, for Tua Tagovailoa, who I don't know, obviously. I don't know if that's obvious, but I don't know him. For a person who's gone through what he's gone through, you kind of want to see him retire. I think of how much money I need to be able to tell you to fuck off, and it's a lot less than Tua has made in his career. I would be gone, but also if I was looking at 10 times that in the next couple of years in salary, I think I'd have a tough time also. So the Seahawks are favored considerably, 6.5 point favorites. I like this matchup predictor gives the Seahawks a 66.9% chance of winning. It's a home game. It's a 1:00 game. The Dolphins starting quarterback is on injured reserve, Tua. If you didn't know, if you didn't realize from all the Tua talk, I got to give you more credit, folks. The world is turning, by the way. The world's turning around on the Seahawks and on Geno Smith, and I almost think they're overcorrecting. I think we're getting to a point where it's possible that they have overcorrected on the Seahawks and are going to expect more and be more disappointed by the Seahawks than they should be because of the quality. The match, there's going to be some interesting stuff, obviously. DK Metcalf and Jalen Ramsey is always a fun matchup. It'll be interesting to see because in past years, it's been DK and Tyler Lockett, and now with Jackson Smith and Jigba seemingly taking on a bigger role, especially, I think he had 12 targets last game. That was the Jackson Smith and Jigba that you thought you were getting when you drafted him in the first round, and it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what the Dolphins do, because that's a tougher matchup. When you have three options like that, and then you have, if the Seahawks ever figure out how to use Noah Fant, or maybe more accurately, if Noah Fant ever figures out how to be part of an NFL offense, that's a lot of speed on that team. That's a lot of intelligence on that team, and opposing teams are in trouble. But yeah, the Seahawks have also been just given incredible luck to start the season. The Patriots take them to overtime. I think that's a concerning win, by the way. Even on the road, that's a bad Patriots team. I know they're 1-1. That's not a team that's expected to be like a Super Bowl contender. So to me, there's some concern there. That's not a clean victory. And then, so yeah, I think that you're through 2 weeks, you don't know a lot. It's not obvious to me that the Seahawks are a good team or a contender, but I think that because of the unfortunate injury to Tua, they could get through 3 weeks with very good luck, be 3-0, and we still don't actually know if they're a good team. That's kind of the way that I'm feeling. Does anyone else feel that way? Like the Broncos, bad team. Patriots, probably not as bad, but also a bad team. Without Tua, Miami is a tough team to imagine being you get the ball into Tyreek Hill's hands, you never know what can happen. Jalen Waddle, same story. I even think like Raheem Mostert, I believe, is out. Like it is a ragtag, like held together by bubblegum Miami Dolphins team, and I don't know if you're going to know a lot, even if the Seahawks win. And I feel the same way, by the way. I guess we learned something. I've been saying this all year. We learned something about the Huskies last week. I talked about it with Kyle Baldwin yesterday to a large degree, or to a longer, fourth podcast. Folks, I'm tired. I will try not to bitch about being tired, but today I am tired. You lose to Washington State, and it just like kind of drives home for me that and I've said it repetitively over and over and over again. I keep repeating it, and I don't know if anyone else agrees. I feel like the Jed Fish era is going to be so temporary, and like he really is here showcasing himself for his next job, and that's frustrating. I think this Washington team has enough talent to be an 8 or 9 win team potentially, and one of those 8 or 9 wins, you would have expected to be Washington State, and it felt like they took for granted that they were going to beat Washington State. Hang on a second. I don't know. We talked about it yesterday. I guess the biggest story in Seattle sports, and we're going to talk about this guy a lot as the off season goes on. But here, I'm going to share this. So Julio Rodriguez last night and Victor Robles the night before, but obviously we're talking about Julio because it happened last night. Was it the night before with Robles? Anyway, last night, Randy Arozarena, we'll play the clip, but he loses his bat on his swing. We're in the 10th inning. Julio had struck out in the 9th inning, I believe, and then he's on third base. There's no outs, man on first and third, the bottom of the 10th inning, a must-win game. A game that's the difference between the Mariners now have like a 3% playoff probability. This is like essentially an elimination game. The Mariners should be treating every single game as an elimination game, which, by the way, it seems like they kind of have been because they've been allowing their pitchers to pitch over 100 pitches in a game. They have been doing that, and you get to this extra inning situation. Your team is in good position to at least tie the game, to at least extend the game, and
runners lead 2-2. Swing.
Arozarena lost his bat, if you're listening.
And the ball is thrown to third, and they get J-Rod.
So you can't even, like, the announcers don't even know what to do with this because Arozarena loses his bat, throws it at Julio Rodriguez, not at Julio Rodriguez, but in the direction of him. He dodges it and goes, in order to dodge it, he goes like away from the baseline and then walks even further away from the baseline. We're going to see it in a moment. I actually sought out this specific replay so that we could see, because they kept showing this, and it's like you don't even see the throw. You just hear the announcer say that a throw happened in third. But we'll watch a little further in, and we'll see. I'll show you what happened, or you'll see on the video what happened.
Arozarena strikes out. Let's go with the bat. Rodriguez trying to get out of the way, straight too far off of third, and then the quick throw to Chisholm for the double play.
Wow, this is amazing right here. You watch this great pitch, and there goes the bat, and Rodriguez gets out of the way. But the only problem is the ball's still live.
So, I mean, pretty obviously, Julio Rodriguez thought the play was dead. Like that, and I don't know. I mean, obviously, the play was not dead. They throw to third and get him out. Is this one of those? Like, I don't have people are calling this the biggest base running fuck up in the history of fuck ups. Julio Rodriguez has had a tough year, and it's like, this is like a way for him to cap off a tough year for him. A guy who's been struggling all year, just a terrible way for him to leave a bad taste in the fans' mouths as we approach the offseason, and the Mariners, their playoff hopes dwindle. And this is a huge one. This game was a huge loss in playoff probability, and you are at the point where you cannot be losing games like this. I mean, they've really been there this whole season. Like, this was never going to be, even with the early season blunders that the Astros have, this was never going to be an easy division to win. And Julio fucks up, and I got to tell you, I don't know what the normal protocol is for this. Like, everybody's acting like they know. I don't know what normally happens when a bat flies at a base runner. Like, I don't know if the opposing team is expected, if it's like an unwritten rule that they're expected to allow that guy to get back to his base freely. I don't know what batters normally do. It's really easy to say, like, this is a huge fuck up, but I've never seen this even. I've never seen an attempt to throw a batter out in that situation. And is it because every time the batter returns dutifully to the base? And this is brought up. I've seen some pretty terrible opinions, some pretty harsh takes on Julio about this. People want to trade him. People want to cut him. People obviously who don't understand the way salaries work in Major League Baseball. I don't know if you could hear the alarm going off in the background, by the way. First off, if Julio hadn't had a bad season, if Julio hadn't had a bad season, the Mariners might not be in this situation, right? Like, if Julio had a bad season is relative. Like, Julio's been worth 3 wins above replacement. He's been an above average hitter. I will say, and we're going to talk about Julio, we'll talk about the offseason a lot. There seems like nobody who could benefit more from some reconfiguration of the ballpark. And I don't necessarily think that means bringing the fences in, but like fixing that batter's eye. Julio has a 3% higher strikeout rate at home than on the road. And he's like a league average hitter at home and a 117 WRC plus guy on the road this year. And that's WRC plus is park adjusted. Like, that's including all of the suppression that Safeco Field does to offenses. So, yeah, I mean, I think that the Mariners can do a lot to help Julio out in the offseason, and not just Julio. They could do a lot to attract other free agents, to help other players on the team. Like, this feels to me like a guy who I think it needs to be a priority in the offseason to fix whatever's wrong. Get these guys out there. Frankly, let Julio go out and take batting practice as often as he wants till the batter, because they have a lot invested in him, and you're not going to trade him. Not at this point. He's at the absolute valley of his value right now. You are not going to trade him in this offseason just because some fans are frustrated with him. So he's like a perfect candidate for a dude that should be consulted, I think, to make the stadium a little more hitter friendly. What's the opinion out there? What are your opinions? Comment your opinions, if you will, on Julio. I would love that. I would love to know what your opinions are. Okay. Let's move on to... Because, I mean, it's obvious to me the Mariners are not going to trade Julio. Like, you can move on from that as a topic. I want to show... There's two more things I want to talk about. First, I want to watch this video of Caleb Williams. We talked about Caleb Williams a lot leading up to the draft. I'm a big draft guy. I guess we have two like draft-ish topics remaining because I think Caleb Williams is going to be a bust. That's my like, and I'm not the only one for sure. I don't know how to describe it without having it come off as like misogynistic, or I've worked really hard in my life to try to acknowledge, what is that, like, take reality on reality's terms? I don't have to like something for it to be reality. You know what I mean? And I think Caleb Williams is just going to have a hard time fitting in the NFL. I think he comes off to fans, which it's less important that he comes off it's less important if he comes off to fans as arrogant, which is what I was going to say. He comes off as arrogant than his teammates or the media or his coaches or whatever. I also think I just don't know how to say this in a way that's like not shitty. The nail polish and the purses and shit like that. Like, I would love it if we were at a time where in NFL football, a dude could be not super traditionally masculine and not have that be a distraction. That would be great, but we're not there. And Caleb Williams coming off as arrogant, people are doubting him because of that. They're doubting him because of these distractions. And he's got to know also, and I've said this a bunch of times, being a quarterback on an NFL team is like being a governor of a state. Like, the eyes are on you all the time. And shit like your body language in conversation with other quarterbacks will end up mattering. And is that stupid? Of course it's stupid. Of course it's stupid that you and I are about to watch a video of CJ Stroud talking to Caleb Williams, and we're going to analyze body language and like the somewhat minute ways that he reacted to CJ Stroud. Because, and also, I'm going to give him some grace here. Caleb Williams just lost a football game. We don't have to expect... Caleb Williams doesn't have to be in a great mood or into hearing advice. And also, CJ Stroud is about to give him advice, and CJ Stroud is a second-year quarterback. And that's not to take anything away from CJ Stroud. I can tell you as a stand-up comedian, when I was 2 years into comedy, I knew a lot of people who were 3 years into comedy. When I was 1 year into comedy, I knew a lot of people who were 2 years into comedy. And from those people, you can learn some practical things. You can learn, well, how did you get booked on that thing? Where are all the open mics? How much should I be paid? You can learn like mechanical things about low-level comedy. But when a person who's 2 years into comedy starts giving you their opinions on their philosophy of comedy, that is worthless information. And so I understand to a degree if that's the way that Caleb Williams felt, but we'll watch the clip. I just want you to watch Caleb Williams' face here, because it becomes very obvious very quickly that he does not respect or care about what CJ Stroud is telling him. And is that because he's heard it a million times before? Is that because he doesn't respect CJ Stroud as a person? Is it because he's angry? And it doesn't matter, because you are the governor of the Chicago Bears. You are the political figurehead of the Chicago Bears, and you look like a dickhead here. And CJ Stroud, maybe he's out. He actually came out and said that he was not trying to big brother Caleb Williams. And maybe that's true, and maybe that's how Caleb Williams felt. But again, especially if the team does not play well, or if Caleb Williams does not succeed, this is the kind of stuff that is going to get scrutinized. And these are just like unforced errors. You know what I mean? That's the thing that was frustrating about Jed Fish, and why I was talking about the play call at the end is an unforced error. There were several points in the game, including the penalties, etc., that were unforced errors. These are things that don't need to happen. And so let's play this clip. So this is CJ Stroud. By the way, I got to tell you, I love CJ Stroud. I was on CJ Stroud over Bryce Young. But I've been wrong so many times. These Ohio State quarterbacks, they get me every time. I liked Dwayne Haskins, rest in peace. I was a huge Justin Fields fan. I'm excited to be fucked over by Ohio State quarterbacks for the next decade. But CJ Stroud is who I would have taken over Bryce Young, and it looks pretty good right now. I said I would have taken Justin Fields over Trevor Lawrence, and I got laughed at quite a bit. And then Trevor Lawrence has been pretty mediocre. And the rest of that rookie class, I think Lawrence is the only one that's still with his original team. So let's see if we can get this Stroud one to play here.
Hey, stop taking those hits. Learn from those mistakes, and everything that you got, bro, is in you already, bro. You're going to be a hell of a player in this league. All right, boy. Appreciate it. For sure.
Okay, so I can get on board with like the learn from those mistakes thing. It's like, you learn from your mistakes. You're fucking brand new also. I can see that being a little bit annoying. And also but I do think learn not to take those hits. This is a guy who has also recently made the transition from college to the NFL and who is very recently aware of the difference between an NFL hit and a college hit. And I think that's it's somewhat obvious advice. I don't think that CJ Stroud is exactly breaking ground in the philosophical department talking to Caleb Williams about this, but I do think this is all meant in support of treating Caleb Williams as though he's part of the quarterback fraternity and not an opponent. And let's go back. I want to look at Caleb Williams' face one more time because I didn't pay that. So oh yeah, right here. You're going to be a hell of a player in this league, and the smug expression. Now, I mean, CJ Stroud's doing nothing but good here. Caleb Williams is going to end up a hated figure, a Jay Cutler type guy if this is his attitude throughout the entire first couple years of his career. Felt like he was done with that conversation. Now, I'm not. Listen, there's nobody that wants to finish a conversation faster than me. If I'm anyone in that conversation, I'm probably Caleb Williams. But this is why you should never make me the quarterback of your football team or the governor of your state. I'd be bad at those jobs. It's just an unforced error. You just look like a dumbass. Okay. The last thing I want to talk about, and I might be the only one that cares about this, is Mel Kiper. Maybe the father of draft analysis. Is that right? The godfather of draft analysis. And I like. Do I like Mel Kiper? I think Mel Kiper has obviously created an entire wing of media. Draft coverage is an entire it's its own thing. He's created a category of a subcategory of sports media. I certainly think that his best days are past him. I also don't necessarily think he has ever offered really or his role has ever really been to offer analysis of in-game play. Why would we ask Mel Kiper about how the NFL should change its rules? He's the draft guy. But here he is. He's going to say that he thinks that too high safeties should be outlawed.
Pick it up from there. Now that we've sort of set the table for exactly what your problem is with it, how would you try and solve it?
Well, I grew up with the best of the National Football League, 60s, 70s, into the 80s. You're talking about deep shots, right? The go route, the 9-route post. You're talking about Terry Bradshaw in a Super Bowl hitting John Stallworth. You see Leroy Irvin diving, right, just off his finger. There's the receiver. They laid it out there, right? Hit the receiver in stride, 65-yard touchdown. It's a beautiful thing to watch. That's what I want to see brought back to the National Football League. Okay, check down kings, bubble screen sensations. boring football. Game manager, I get it, but I want to see those deep shots. That's what the NFL was built on. I grew up with John Unitas, Fran Tarkington, Ken Stabler, Darryl LaMonica. You talk about quarterbacks, Joe Namath. It was just Brett Favre.
Okay, so here's the thing. The NFL's never been more popular. Like I tweeted about this, but this feels like the equivalent of like the Make America Great Again thing, where it's like, wait a second, I thought we were doing pretty good. What happened? I mean, the NFL's never been more popular, and he brings up all these quarterbacks, and you're like, Joe Namath. Joe Namath has more interceptions than touchdowns. You want to see your idea of improving quarterback play is to have a guy throw more interceptions than touchdowns? Most of these guys he's talking about have more interceptions thrown than touchdowns.
Burt Jones with the Baltimore Colts. You think about those quarterbacks who would throw the ball down the field. I said what Bradshaw did with Stallworth and Swan, Roger Staubach. That's what I want to see brought back. Say, well, you can't do that, right? Well, you got a 5-yard rule with the cornerbacks, right? The Mel Blount rule, right? Now with the push thing with Hurts, you got to be a yard back now. So don't tell me you can't have those safeties closer to the line of scrimmage than they are. I was at games where I'm thinking, hey, too high? They're out in outer space. I couldn't even find us. They're playing with 9 guys, right? Where are the other 2? Oh, the other 2, they're so daggone far back, and even though they're part of the damn play. I'm telling you, we got to change this thing, and we got to have, hey, you can warn them. They come up, hey, guys, you got to get up a little bit, right? You're too far back. Warn those safeties, but you got to figure out, competition committee, somebody's got to figure out what that depth is, but it's too far back right now. The NFL is being ruined by these too high safeties.
Being ruined by too high safety. First off, safety play is like, they're paying safeties less money than ever. The safety play is like less important, arguably, than it's ever been. The NFL is incredibly popular. Scoring is, significantly higher than the period he's talking about. This is the exact thing that pisses you off when old people start talking about stuff being better before. It's like, this is just a projection of, I wish that I was younger. To me, that's what it feels like. Football was not better back then. I tweeted this, and I meant it as a joke, obviously, but this is like one step away from being like, I want white corners and white running backs, and I think all the quarterbacks should be white, and most of the offensive linemen should be like, it feels like, I used to do a joke about this, and by used to, I mean I tried it twice, and it bombed so hard both times. But this is the kind of thing that is like not explicitly racist, but it feels like it kind of is. You know what I mean? And I don't think Mel Kiper's racist, by the way. I think I mean, it's all in good fun, Mel. I know you're a loyal viewer of this podcast. But what I'm saying is, it's one of these things. It's like these old school opinions that nobody cares about or should have anymore. I don't really understand why ESPN put this responsibility on Mel Kiper to have an opinion on this, but yeah, it's like obviously stupid. The NFL's more popular than it's ever been. The guys who I've been a gassy podcast. It's almost over, and thank God, because I literally just saw, as I burped, like a person clicked on to view and then clicked off. Yeah, it's a stupid opinion. Quarterbacks are more famous than they've ever been. They're getting paid more money than they ever have. They're more efficient than they've ever been. And yeah, shut up. Shut up, old man. I also hate that I have this theory about sports because I think baseball did this a little bit. So baseball has changed a bunch of rules that I think have kind of fucked with the integrity of the game, to be honest with you. Like I think that the base runner in extra innings sucks. I actually like don't mind the DH. I'm a little bit of a purist in that if I would have had to choose between universal DH or getting rid of the DH, I would have chosen to get rid of the DH, but I recognize I'm like deep in the minority on that. I hate when leagues try to change the rules to kind of when they change the rules to sway the evolution of sports. Like we've seen in baseball over the course of decades, like pitchers get too good and then batters get a little better. And of course, Major League Baseball does a couple things. They lower the mound, all that stuff. But like these leagues are starting to kind of try to like play God a little bit and stop stop relying on the innovation and the ebb and flow and the chess game that is that sport. And that's what's frustrating to me is if you got two high safeties and your guys are all spread wide because they've all adopted these college offenses, you better start running the ball again, right? Like we have safeguards in place, but what keeps happening in these sports is the contracts get longer, the money gets greater. In football, we're seeing more and more guaranteed money for these quarterbacks. In baseball, we're seeing guys on 13-year contracts. And if you get a team that's got 4 or 5 guys, the San Diego Padres are like a pretty good example of this. You get a team like that that's got 4 guys on these $200-300 million contracts, and other teams figure out how to just keep getting those players that they have out. Well, then this team is fucked forever. Now they have to spend $1 billion and wait for a decade to evolve past, for the league to evolve past where they're at now into a type of baseball that they can play with the contracts that they're saddled with. This is not the rest of baseball's problem. This is an opportunity. If you take these things as an opportunity, you might be able to find this is like the Moneyball shit. What's that called? Like a market inefficiency. That's why I thought so I've always, like, Pete Carroll was frustrating as a coach, but one thing I thought he was doing at times in his career, especially when he was at his best, was zigging when the rest of the league zagged. And part of that was as the league focused on these super efficient, high octane passing games, he was running the ball more than anybody in the league. And the Seahawks were very good that entire time. I don't think it's because he had incredible offensive coordinators. I don't even think it's because they had incredible talent at running back or on the offensive line. I think it's because they could go find the absolute best run blocker in football for free, essentially, for pennies on the dollar. And yeah, shut up, Mel Kiper. Teams will evolve to this. You don't have to start banning the shift in baseball. Ugh. Let hitters start hitting to all fields. Just because the league started paying pull hitters too much money, yeah, you know what that's probably good for? Small market teams for interest in the league overall. Anyways, all right. Well, now I'm the old man yelling. Thank you guys for listening 4 times this week, baby. Tell me if you hate it. Tell me if you like it. Put a comment down, and I will probably read it and feel sad when you hate it. So thank you for watching. Come see me this weekend, opening for Giannis Pappas or hosting for Giannis Pappas at Tacoma Comedy Club. Next weekend, Chris Frangiola. Also, my friends out at Bickerson's Brewhouse, we're back, baby. We're doing comedy out there again. Todd Royce, Kill Tony, Golden Ticket winner, friend of mine, a couple other great comedians, Zach Summerfield and Anthony Schumann are going to be out there on Saturday at 8 o'clock. Tickets still available. Call the Bickerson's Brewhouse tap room. I'm Casey McLean. Casey McLean Comedy everywhere. I love you. I got to go to Lowe's, so we have to end this podcast right now.